Hi folks, so we had a new moon in Scorpio last night, November the 14th, 9:07 p.m. Pacific time. So I'm doing this video roughly, I would say about maybe 20 hours after the new moon, and those of you who've been following my channel know that that isn't unusual for me. I like to do my new moon videos after a new moon, which probably gives them less circulation on YouTube, but it's just the way I like to do them. There are tons of astrology channels on YouTube, and you can always get some basic information as far as new moons, and even more complex information as far as new moons are concerned, as far as other astrologers are concerned, before the fact. Now, I did a video a couple of days ago setting the stage for where we're at currently, and you know, I've been saying it ad nauseum, but I've sort of developed a mantra now that I'm going to introduce every video with till the end of this year, so that we're clear about where we stand and then dive into the actual transit or astrological event that I want to discuss. It should be clear by now that the second half of 2020 is absolutely about releasing and finishing up tasks related to where Cancer and Capricorn sit in your chart at this point in time, particularly the sign of Capricorn. These are energies that have been at play since December the 20th, 2017, and even more increasingly since July the 12th or so of 2018, and they are rapidly seeking conclusion by the end of this year. This conclusion could come in many forms: opportunities, reward, lessons that need to be incorporated, tests. There's an acceleration of learning, signing off on a certain set of assignments, getting done with your homework, learning everything you can from a certain set of challenges that were placed in front of you, and moving forward, availing of certain opportunities, but also paying attention to what patterns and behaviors were not serving you. And depending on how well you really listened to any advice or suggestions or stuck to the straight and narrow in the Capricorn part of the chart that dealt so much with behaviors and patterns that are not serving you and that need to be released since those dates that I mentioned, in 2017 and 2018, that some of what you're dealing with at present, the idea of consequence is very pronounced as we finish up the old set of energies. And at the same time, since April the 4th of 2020, but increasingly also since September the 30th, 2020, and certainly as we head into the November 30th lunar eclipse in Gemini, the new set of energies are certainly making their presence felt on the Gemini-Sagittarius axis. And we have a new moon solar eclipse after the lunar eclipse on November the 30th. We have a new moon solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December the 14th. And that December the 14th to, I think it's end May, early June, the corresponding lunar eclipse in Sag, that is one full discrete cycle that we're going to have on this Gemini-Sagittarius axis. So we're soon going to be dealing purely with the Gemini-Sagittarius aspect of our charts in terms as far as the eclipses are concerned. In addition, Mars's presence in Aries, very germane to this video because Mars is one of the two rulers of the sign of Scorpio. Mars is 6-month sojourn in Aries has imbued us with a certain amount of self-assertion and is actually helping us through making this transition from the old set of energies to the new set of energies. Now, this new moon in and of itself is a little bit unusual, but it's especially pertinent and relevant because it fell on November the 14th. And this time period of Mars in Aries in the second half of this year, July and August had a certain amount of forward momentum, but by the time we got to early September when Mars went retrograde, and certainly by the middle of October when Mercury went retrograde, the middle of October till about the middle of November has probably been one of the most static, confining times I think that many of us have sort of had or have felt. A real feeling of not being able to move forward, in waiting on others, waiting on election results, waiting to see how things will turn out. And certainly November the 3rd, Mercury turned direct, so that was one gate that was finally opening. And November the 13th, a couple of days ago, Mars turned direct. So we are now in this final leg of mid-November to end December 2020. And indeed, from November the 13th, I would say give it about a week. So let's say November the 20th, November the 22nd, till the end of the third week of January, we have nothing but forward movement. And this new moon in Scorpio acts and comes at a time as a bit of a tipping point, because it moves us from a period of phase one of the second half of 2020, July, August, a certain amount of forward movement and momentum, and a feeling that pieces were being moved, but we're not sure where they're going to land. September, October, yeah, sure, a certain laying down of arms and less intensity, and the ability to process where we're at, even more emotional processing, relationship processing, financial and relationship entanglements processing, codependency processing, from the middle of October till about the middle, till November the 3rd, while Mercury was retrograde. But with Mercury being direct till November the 10th, he was still in Libra, and till December the 1st, Mercury will continue to be in Scorpio. So after this period of September and October, September to the middle of November, middle of September to middle of November being really quite confining and bewildering, now we come to something quite unpredictable, and it is absolute forward movement. It's unlikely that the direction that was set up in July and August of this year is going to change dramatically. In some cases it might, but for the most part the arrow will still move forward in the same direction. It's just stated its aim in July and August, took a bit of a rest to allow us to process in September and October and part of November, and now, between now and the end of January, it's just going to be all systems go. Okay, so this November 14th new moon then comes at this tipping point of energies where the reflective, stymied, stay in one place energies from September 7th or 8th or so till November 13th or so, but particularly since the middle of October, have now ended. Give Mars a little bit more time to pick up momentum. In a week's time, we'll really start to sense things starting to move forward. Okay. The new moon itself, as I've mentioned to you before, the other thing is that the astrology of the time is still quite stressful. Mars in Aries, the new moon solar eclipse that we're under, at least till November 30th, if not the end of the year, that occurred on June the 21st in the sign of Cancer, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn, and Venus currently in Libra are all at odds with each other, or squaring at each other, or creating challenges and obstacles for each other, so that those obstacles can force things to move along, create a certain amount of disruptive force that allows for a certain amount of progress. The new moon in Libra that occurred a month ago was certainly the most stressful of new moons, again placing us from the middle of October to the middle of November in this kind of static, relationship challenged place. The full moon on October the 31st, which promised a certain amount of liberation, and depending on how you look at the election results, you can take that as part of that full moon or not. And then the rest of the lunations of this year, the November 14th new moon, the November 30th eclipse, the December 14th eclipse, all, as far as the lunations are concerned, are much milder in terms of their energy, even positive, even supportive, even helpful. The rest of the astrology, alas, still retains a certain amount of stress, because Venus over this next week is going to square, already I think today or tomorrow it's squaring Jupiter and Pluto, and then I think around November the 19th it squares Saturn. The good news is by November the 20th these squares will be done, but as Mars moves direct, Mars is going to square Pluto in December and Jupiter and Saturn in January. So some of this aggravating, self-assertive, let me move on with my life and let me pursue my goals kind of energy is going to continue to help to move us forward in a way that really, again, forces us to give up the old and move forward and accept and play in the new set of energies that are really now trying to get attention by clearing out the old and ensuring that lessons from the old have been learned. When it comes to the sign of Scorpio, codependencies and enmeshments, financial, emotional, the emotional and financial truth in our relationships, codependencies, dependencies, power plays, power struggles, we're very present to those. The moon is not happy in Scorpio, even though this is a supportive new moon. And The sign of Scorpio, outside of the signs of Cancer and Capricorn and Sagittarius and Gemini and Aries, has had its own mini party going on insofar as October 27th, Mercury moved into Scorpio, September 27th, Mercury moved into Scorpio, only to go retrograde October 13th or so. October 22nd, the Sun moved into Scorpio, as it does every year, and the retrograde Mercury then moved back into Libra, also another sign of relationships, went direct on November the 3rd. November the 10th has moved back into Scorpio. So we have the Sun and Mercury in Scorpio right now. We had the new moon yesterday, and then Venus moves into Scorpio. Uncomfortable for a planet like Venus, but again, relationship and financial issues in entangled relationships, whether it is with a significant other, a spouse, a partner, family, siblings, clients, business partners, you name it, is, till the middle of December, we are talking, thinking, dealing with it. And somewhere this party is also helping facilitate ending the old and beginning the new. And so this new moon in Scorpio allows for the opportunity for building something stable. A lot of people with this new moon in Scorpio are talking about the sextile to Jupiter and Pluto. As far as I'm concerned, the sextile to Jupiter and Pluto happened on the way to the new moon. The sextile I'm most interested and intrigued by is the sextile to Saturn. So the opportunity to build something constructive and stabler over the next month or so, especially when it comes to releasing the old and disentangling ourselves from relationship confusion or patterns that have been playing around in our psyche for a few years. Mercury has been going retrograde in Scorpio for 3 or 4 years now, and Mercury going retrograde in water signs like Scorpio and Cancer and Pisces is not comfortable. Is really, the planet of thought trying to back up and understand deep emotions. It's just not a comfortable place. This is the last Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. Next year, when Mercury goes retrograde around this time, September, October, November, it's going to be going retrograde in Libra. Indeed, all of next year's 2021's Mercury retrogrades are solely in air signs. Interesting when we consider the Mercury retrograde occurring next year at around the same time as a Gemini eclipse, I think, because Mercury is going to be retrograde in Gemini. Irrespective, we'll deal with that at that time. This notion of feeling, because Venus in Libra opposed Mars, and because right now it's squaring Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto, absolutely relationship challenges, examination of codependency, examination of what is working, what is not working, power plays. And because Mars, for the 3rd time, is getting ready to do so in December and January, and because of all this influx of planets in Scorpio now, with the new moon, as well as Mercury currently till December the 1st, and Venus starting November the 22nd till about December the 15th, when you come to a new moon in Scorpio after a Mercury retrograde with Venus coming in at this particular time, with this timing, with Mars, one of the rulers of Scorpio, going direct and being direct now for another couple of years, and powerfully direct in Aries, a sign that it rules. Pluto, the planet of death and transformation, the 2nd planet associated with ruling Scorpio in Capricorn, just having sextiled this new moon. The only way I can explain it is that whatever it is that the Mercury retrogrades in Scorpio have been trying to show you for the past 3 or 4 years about certain entangled relationships, financially, romantically, intimately, could be family. These are fated karmic relationships that are outside of casual dating, casual friendships. These are relationships where emotions are entangled, where people support each other and hurt each other at the same time, and finances are entangled. Okay, that's the kind of rich, deep stuff we're talking about when it comes to Scorpio and Scorpionic relationships and Scorpionic activity. With this new moon, with Mercury finally being direct and back into Scorpio, and Venus getting ready to come into Scorpio, and Mars being direct, and Pluto having blessed the new moon just before the new moon occurred. The only way I can describe it is to say that all that there isn't much else now to consider or to know or to learn or to realize about whatever financial entangled relationships are somehow have been a point of focus for the past few years around this time, October, November, with these Mercury retrogrades. Or all that there needed to be learned and considered is done and is now behind you. And while there may not be complete clarity around what is going on, enough is known for you to move forward and make some determinations with regard to who's in the boat with you and who is not. I think it's the best way I can describe it and explain it. It's as if key decisions related to certain relationships in which there are financial and emotional enmeshments, karmic relationships, scorpionic, the truth about a relationship, the undeniable truth that has to be faced, the analysis around that, the understanding around that, the understanding of where a relationship may have been supportive but where it has been damaging, where there might be trauma, abuse, power plays. All of that processing for the past few years, but especially since September the 27th of this year, is now done. So the question is, where does it leave you, and what actions do you take by till the middle of December, for another 2 weeks' time? It's really interesting. The next new moon is a solar eclipse in Sagittarius on December 14th, 15th, and December 15th is when Venus moves into Sagittarius and we clear all the Scorpio energy. Can't make this up. It's also kind of notable that the day the Sun enters Sagittarius, November 21st, is the day that Venus enters Scorpio. So, and there's a lot of that next year where two planets change houses, change signs on the same day. It's really interesting. I was looking at the transits for next year. So for another month or so, all we really need to know that is worth knowing about certain relationships, we now know. We now know. So the question is, where does it leave us? And what sort of stability, what are the steps that one would take in order to create stability and long-term success and long-term fulfillment of one's potential and one's goals? And this is a personal answer for each person. Sometimes these relationships that can have, it could be a teacher, it could be a guru, it could be anyone who sort of gets through to your psyche where you feel enmeshed. And I think it's time for both decisions, but also, more importantly, perhaps action. Because some of the decision-making and clarity will continue to come as you take action. But all that you really need to know with regard to how it is that someone makes you feel, what may be going on, what seems acceptable, what doesn't seem acceptable, what may, it's almost like anything else that you're going to know is simply going to be confirmation for what you already know. And so each of us now for the next 4 weeks is going to be called to make certain choices with regard to our personal relationships, where there are financial and emotional entanglements, to be able to settle certain questions once and for all that have been brewing, and where a certain amount of truth has been coming to the surface for the past 4 years around this October-November timeframe. And so to get clear on those and to start to take some action around those, and let that action continue to reveal more information so you can determine what are the right choices for this relationship or these relationships, so that you can pursue greater stability and the greater expression of your own sort of maximization of your own potential. I'm thinking in terms of Saturnian terms. Okay, I hope this helped you. The three sort of primary transits I'm looking at with this, of course, are Venus squaring Saturn and Mercury opposing Uranus, and the Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, and then the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction. You know, as I said, this November 14th new moon is a tipping point. It's a tipping point. It's the gateway opening for over 2 months of forward movement, even though it'll take about a week or so for a lot of this to get going. And we don't always get this kind of energy. I mean, the next planet to go retrograde is Mercury again on January the 30th. And it's only Mercury going retrograde. Next year, Venus and Mars don't go retrograde, which is nice, you know? So there's a lot more forward motion and more forward momentum last year, apart from the Mercury retrogrades and the Jupiter and the Saturn retrogrades, which will occur. But certainly, all of December, much of January, the last part of November is... Now there's nothing stopping us. Now it's just a question of the universe doing its own thing so that we can co-create along with it. We're waiting on the universe to produce certain things too, but we might also feel, one thing I will tell you with Mars going direct, your own energy and vitality will return. So for the past couple of months, it's been hard to do things or get things done or get things off your to-do list. That will change. And I would hazard to say over the last week, it may already have started to change, as Mars has been slowing down and not going retrograde. It's when Mars is really retrograde that we feel that loss of vitality the most. I'm going to leave it at this. If you found this video useful, feel free to share it, like it, comment on it. Likes and comments drive up, I think, visibility on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you're notified whenever I do new videos. My contact information is in the description area. You can always contact me there to inquire about rates for readings or rates for me to make you an easy-to-read version of your chart so you can see which planets fall in which signs, fall into which houses, and what those houses mean. So it becomes a tool that you can use to kind of not only do some work yourself and know what is where and where transits are happening, but it's also something that can be very useful to accompany my videos, essentially, when I'm talking about signs and Sagittarius and Jupiter and Capricorn and Cancer and Aries. You can always look up where they are in your chart and what that means. Inquire about rates. Don't send me your personal information right off the bat. Once you're comfortable about rates, then we can share more information from there. Okay, I will leave it at this, and have a happy new moon. Thanks.